Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. Okay, so as we normally do, let me play the short of the day. Hit the like button.
Watch the shade from Miss Vanzant.
Maybe that's what I have projected, but that's not the case. Well, I want to be known for something great.
Watch her. Watch her.
Such as what?
Okay, there you have it. Just a quick introduction to Iyanla Vansant's personality, the way she moved, the way she acts. This one was kind of funny because somebody, I don't know if that's Ebony K. Williams or just like another random light skinned chick, but she said she wanted to be something great. Ayala looked at this cutout of her up and down, and she said, "Such as what?" Now, to be fair to whomever this is, being remembered for a woman being remembered for her sexuality, her beauty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is can be something to be remembered for, and that can be, you are remembered for something great in that regard. People do remember great beauties. Now, I will say that in modern times, that's not going to leave a powerful legacy because the world is too exposed. No one's going to remember. Like there isn't going to be a new Mona Lisa. It doesn't take an artist or anything. It just takes Photoshop. It's just too much of these pretty images going on in the world for someone to be remembered for that alone. So I get it, but I don't, in other words. All right. So therapy. Apparently, according to Nick Cannon and Iyanla Vansant, they decided to do a show on Black men therapy. Now, I want you to follow my theory as you watch this episode, because I believe that Nick Cannon and really many other Black men, but in this case, we're talking about Nick Cannon, is so used to Black women sunning Black men, defining and describing what Black men are doing wrong and how they can do better. They're so used to that's why he made this show what it is. And he's actually looking for that type of confrontation, argument, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in this skit. He's looking for that type of behavior from Ayala. And to her credit, she don't indulge him. I will say that about her, but you be the judge. This is a long one, so yeah, I'm probably going to be here for a while. I didn't plan on doing it today, but life got in the way. Hit the like button, by the way. All right, so let me present. All right, fair use, all. Fair use.
I mean, I think, we have probably a lot of things in common. Specifically, I love and care for our people.
Yes.
We probably go about it in different ways. You have approached it from, an academic and a clinical standpoint, where I feel like, I utilize platforms like this really to create safe spaces for men, specifically with counsel culture. Say it's no longer cancel culture.
No.
We've got to stop canceling. Do this once more. This is counsel culture. I am Nick Cannon, and today I am joined by someone truly special, truly highest class of civilization, as I say. We're definitely privileged to be in her presence. Just to name off a few things, she's a executive producer, a New York Times #1 best-selling author 6 times, and counting probably. She has authored, almost 17 books in 23 different languages with over 10 million copies sold collectively, and award-winning so many times over, but more importantly, someone who truly cares and loves people, loves our culture, the one and only world-renowned Reverend Dr. Iyanla Vansant. It is such a pleasure.
It is my honor. But you forgot great-grandma, grandma, and mama.
I heard that.
That's
Those-
the big thing.
those
right
three
there.
things right there.
Right.
A true matriarch.
Yes, that's it.
I think the world has been waiting for you and I to sit down and converse.
I love it.
Okay. Off the bat, I do have to say that Black women have a lot of titles that they seek and treasure. Wife not amongst them.
I love it. I love it.
But I've been a fan for quite some time, obviously, from your numerous and various appearances and shows and speeches and lectures.
Can I tell
and
you that
books.
just like freaks me out?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because, you know, when I'm not being wonderful and marvelous, I'm home watching TV. I'm watching Wildin' Out and Drumline and looking. I'm like, oh, this Nick Cannon.
I appreciate it. I mean, that makes me feel weird too. But no, I mean, I think, you know, we have probably a lot of things in common. Specifically, our love and care for our people.
Yes.
We probably go about it in different ways. You have approached it from you know, an academic and a clinical standpoint, where I feel like, you know, I utilize platforms like this really to create safe spaces for men, specifically with counsel culture. Say it's no longer cancel culture.
No.
We've got to stop canceling. We got to start counseling.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch some more of this to see what he means by a safe space for men. Because, and in his defense, I haven't really seen any of these, but this one. But this doesn't seem like a safe space for men. It seems like a place that you brought a woman on to tell men what they need to do. In this case, therapy. Just saying.
We got to start taking accountability. We have to start having brave spaces and safe places to be vulnerable, to discuss. And as I always say, you know, we're here. So
The place for men to be vulnerable is not a public one. So say if a man wants to be vulnerable, say he was touched as a child or, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, he was touched as an adult in prison or something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he wants to be vulnerable. And you want him to do that on your show? I really can't stand people that do that have these shows like the Jerry Springer show used to be, where a person just is being psychoanalyzed or they have a psychotic breakdown, like in public for everybody to see their trauma. I don't really agree with that.
So, you know, we can feel together, we can reveal together, so we can heal together.
Yeah.
And you have even an addendum to that. You know,
I say feel, deal, heal.
I heard that.
So once you feel it, you've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so that you can eliminate it from the deepest root and cause. So you can feel it, you deal with it, and then you can heal. Because if you don't deal, you can't heal.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we got a lot to deal with today. I'm on your couch, Doc. I'm gonna create some conversation. Like I said, as we talked previous to this, I mean, there's no holds barred. We could talk about anything. There's nothing off limits. And I'm in a space of receiving, in a space of healing. But there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in my world. But I just think, you know, as a man, I got questions, and there's so much going on. I think a great place to start, you know, in our first session today would be the importance of mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically for Black men. It's not, I mean, it's it's starting to become something of the norm, but it's almost like it's a trend or it's a phase. It's good to talk about it.
Yeah.
But to actually do it, there's quite a few things that are prohibiting us from doing it in our community.
Yeah.
There's, first of all, it's just the accessibility. You know, men in therapy generally, but specifically Black men in therapy, first thing we're going to say is we don't have the time for that. You know,
Okay. He's going to cover some of the barriers that Black men have to getting mental help. The number one barrier is that, for the most part, it is crap. You see, in order to become a psychiatrist, a person doesn't necessarily have to be good or even smart. They just have to be good at school. So we have a lot of people who are good at school with their own mental health issues, that, and we all know, what was that one woman name who, was stripping, and she has an OnlyFans now. And, she also said that Black men and mental health, like, she obviously wasn't all there, but apparently she was good at school at some point in her life. So psychiatry just so happens to be one of those things that you need only be good at school in order to advance. And there's so many that are out there that's bad, that it's in many cases people don't feel that it's worth exploring. It's not worth exploring so many bad ones to find one decent one. And then even if that person is decent, they may not be culturally aligned with you to understand your unique concerns, provided that you have unique cultural concerns. Really, I think that for Black men, the biggest concern that we have that other groups of people don't have is unruly women in our lives. And that's not just limited to lovers. That's also including mothers, sisters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, dealing with that from childhood does take a psychological toll on a man. I don't think that other cultures of people really understand that. And I also don't think Black women understand that. In fact, if you go to a Black woman for psychiatric help, you might get more of that. So that is a thing. You're really limited to Black men who understand that, and those are fewer and far between.
Second thing we're going to say is, even if we did have time for how we going to figure it out. And then, like you said, the last thing is we don't have the money for it. And I personally was probably introduced to the idea of therapy was first in the church.
Really?
Yeah, and that, I mean, I don't even know. Again, it was probably more called counseling,
Right.
in ministry.
That's right.
You got couples counseling, behavioral counseling for someone like myself. But even in that sense where you get time with an elder at the church, a pastor, just even that time, just to be able to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And then, I probably got more introduced when I started doing a lot of work in the facilities of incarceration and different prisons, specifically even working with juveniles. I would go in with different psychologists, and we would create these group sessions, group therapy and group counseling. And I found I was supposed to be there as somewhat of a mentor, but I found myself doing quite a bit of work, and it was helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then from there, my various relationships.
No clue what you're.
Okay. You're gonna see this throughout the show. He's going to bring up, the fact that he is a multiple baby daddy. He's going to present it to Iyanla as if he feels some sort of guilt for it. And really, it seems like he's using his platform as a means to explain himself, not only to Iyanla Vansant, but to the plurality of Black women. Just the fact that she's here, it means a significant amount of Black women are going to watch this. So it seems like he's trying to use his platform as a way to present that to Black women, like, and apologize for it. Like, oh yes, I'm psychologically messed up, and I'm going to get help, and once my help is done, I'll be all queen, oh my queen, and then I'll be looking for a single solitary woman to blue pill my life with. That's what I get that he's attempting to do. And also, he never really said, at least not yet, that he has seen a psychiatrist. He's just talking about the profession.
Just talking about.
I have definitely sat down with many different therapists and counseling in that form, and as of now, I'm probably in counseling 4 times a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so he is
twice individually. Sometimes, it all depends. Some in a holistic fashion. I definitely make it even in my travel, my work and everything, I have a specific doctor that I do see on Tuesdays and Fridays in the morning, right after.
And what's your intention?
Well, initially with that, being someone who also is, studying to get my degree in this space, once I left Howard University in 2020, my goal was to, get my master's in psychology. So I wanted, part of the work was to make sure you actually spend time in therapy.
Right.
But, it's been some years now, and I yearn for it. I desire it. I first went in like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this to pick your brain and understand the process. And, I'm good. And then really spending that time. I personally, for me, those hours every week, I call it waste management. It's where I get to just go and let it all out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not even to necessarily make sense of everything.
Yeah.
Because that's never,
everything don't have to make sense.
Yeah, but if just to verbalize, to have the opportunity to ponder and sit, and sometimes cry, sometimes just breathe, but there's a lot that, I always call it my spiritual bandwidth. I can only take so much before I have to get it all out.
And it keeps you from being alone in your head without adult supervision.
Right.
Because that could be a dangerous place to be.
Right.
Not just for you, for all of us. And to be able to get an objective.
Without adult supervision, that's not something you should really say to an adult.
Third party. One of the two things I want to say, and of course, as a woman of color, a woman of African descent, of course, my community, Black people, but I'm also brown and red, right in my face. I don't have to do DNA 23andMe. My grandmother was born on the reservation.
Oh, wow.
And so I have to say Black, brown, and red. I think Black men are now standing up a little more when it comes to mental health and personal care than the brown man, Latin man, or the red men who are just really silent.
Right.
But I do encourage, support, applaud you, because if nothing else, having another person to talk to dump your brain out with, keeps you accountable to yourself and to others. Because a man who is not accountable to himself is a danger to him, is not accountable to anyone. Right. He's a danger to himself and everybody else. Right. And when you're alone in your head without adult supervision, making up stuff, and you don't have anybody to bounce that off of, where's your accountability? Right. Because when you're up there, you really think you got to go. No, don't you?
Iyanla, you're working under the understanding, the flawed misconception that men don't have a sense of internalized accountability. That without external motivations, motivating factors, et cetera, we would just be completely amoral, and we would just, turn into savage barbarians.
True. Now, you touch on so many different things, and something that you said earlier, I was just like, we gotta get these cameras on. You're in here dropping the gems. But you were just talking about specifically, Black men, because I was talking about, not what we deal with, but from the aspect of being the heads of our household, being the ones that have to usually take the weight on their shoulders,
or not.
And then when that's taken away from you.
Yeah.
So when brothers are losing jobs, when brothers feel have been emasculated, when brothers, are getting older and not being able to, handle or compete in society like they once were when they were in their prime. At some point, and we'll dive into this in a later session. It's like, you're like, what is my purpose? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And therefore that starts to mess with you. And if you can't talk to somebody about that. We always talk, we're so goal oriented. We're so driven. We're so, we got to manifest this. But when the manifestation isn't coming in the timing that you want it, when the goal isn't, you're not hitting the mark exactly how you want it. How do you deal with that?
Well, he's describing it as midlife crisis. Every man goes through this.
Who do you talk to when you missed all the shots? Who do you talk to when you lost your job? Who do you talk to? Who do you confide in when the woman that you love no longer loves you and leaves you for someone else? Those are the things where we embody and bottle all of that stuff up until sometimes it's too late and we don't know. We had nowhere to turn.
I think one of the greatest crimes, there are many, but one of the greatest crimes perpetuated against Black men specifically is the level to which their humanity and their hearts have been devalued, diminished, and dehumanized, and that they have become doing machines. The greatest value a Black man has, in many instances, is what he can do for somebody, right, and how he can do it, and how much he can do it, and how much he earns doing it. I mean, I hear it and see it among young people in the relationships. You're gonna get my nails done, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that. Right. They've been demeaned and devalued and dehearted, right, to the point where they value themselves based on what they can do. Fix it, get it, make it happen. And no place have I seen in our world does anybody tell Black men how to be. How to be with themselves, how to be true to themselves, how to be with their feelings, how to be with their heart, and it's criminal. So what happens is then
Okay, what she's saying is true about we are being groomed to be, this do for others, but these others is Black women, which is why the talk should be about their therapeutic needs, because their therapeutic needs, their needs for therapy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, really, once that's taken care of, then the Black man would be cool. For whatever reason, and we all know the reason, it's a number of things, the welfare, affirmative action, just this princess thinking that, society at large should work to the benefit of this particular singular group of people is going to manifest itself in relationships. It's like, okay, I don't do anything to the government. I don't provide, I don't contribute to the government in any sort of way. However, they do for me. They feed me, they house me, they clothe me. That thinking is going to manifest itself in relationships. Like, okay, I don't really do anything for this man. I don't really bring anything to the quote unquote proverbial table. However, he should do for me. He should do my nails. He should do, and all of the things that she mentioned, notice, are things that aren't covered with EBT, Section 8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are extra things, meaning that you have one set of men, and that is the male taxpayers into the welfare system, that pays for one aspect of her life, her base needs. And then you just go out and get another man to pay for everything else. Hit the like button.
Begin to do the things that are expected of them, and that's how they're evaluated. And then if they can't do that anymore, whether it's the job or pay the mortgage or whatever, then they're just cast off like socks in the corner.
Right. Right.
And it happens to Black women also, but usually because of the children in our care, we're given a little more leeway. But the way it's done for Black men, and as I shared with you, one of the things my teacher taught me was one of the greatest kryptonites for a man in general, Black men specifically, is the feeling, the belief, the treatment that he is somehow inadequate. And when you devalue a man, he's going to feel inadequate. When you dehumanize him, when you deheart him, So then where does he go with that?
Right.
He's inadequate and he doesn't serve a purpose because he can't do what you need him to do to make you feel better about yourself.
What's the purpose? What's the point?
What's the point? And that's why we have these incredible rises in suicide.
Yeah.
I personally.
And there you have it. See, she's hitting the nail on the head. It's amazing how well they know the problem. But it's kind of like somebody saying, listen, we're going to shoot you. Here's a vest. Because all those things that you say is true. But the only ones, once again, who is devaluing Black men is Black women right now. You know, the Gagas ain't shit. How many times have you heard that from a Black woman? Or what about the term boy bye? How many times have you heard that?
Think it's why we have this, and I don't know the figures, I don't know what they are now, but the increase between, I think it was 2017 and 2021, a 30-something% increase in the number of Black men with prostate cancer, starting early. And why? Because their manhood is under attack.
Right.
And, you know, their psyche is not nourishing and nurturing them, and their masculinity. Because where in the world do we see them lifted, honored? I don't want to say respected. And here's what I hear in the back of my mind. So let me just go ahead and.
None of this has anything to do with prostate cancer. Right now, what it seems like she's doing is reaching. She's reaching for reasons to get Black men in that chair. Quite frankly, I think, well, I'm not going to say that.
Deal with it. Black women saying, well, look what they do. And look how they are. And look what they do. You know, and we unwittingly participate in the emasculation, the dehumanization, the devaluation, and the
It's not unwittingly. It is not unwittingly. And you're not participating in it. You are doing it. Like, unwittingly would be like if I worked in a factory that produced these metal widgets and I don't know what they do. And then come to find out that these metal widgets were used to make weapons of mass destruction. That would be me unwittingly helping, you know, a war machine that is later used on someone. That's me unwittingly helping. You know, they know exactly what they're doing. It's not unwittingly. They want you emasculated. You can't say things like that directly to a person or a group of people unwittingly. That's like punching somebody and say, oh, yes, I unwittingly gave that person a black eye.
Heartening of Black men because they didn't do it the way we wanted them to do it. Mothers, wives, girlfriends, sisters.
That's such a complex conversation, and we didn't even get into, you know, my own personal life. Being that, you know, I love the matriarchs of my family.
That is very weird. That is very weird. I don't know why he insists on the reason is what I stated earlier, and that's because this is his apology, and it's not a real apology. You know, this is like, I'm sorry that I slept with so many beautiful women apology. Yes, I'm going to continue to do it, but know that I'm apologetic. This is that type of apology coming up, and that's why he's constantly bringing it back to his own personal life. And now he says, I love the matriarchs of my family. Oh my gosh.
My grandmother, my great grandmother, is currently 104.
Wow.
Living in Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Oh my God, Kannapolis. I know Kannapolis.
Yeah, I think that's where the name Cannon comes from. Everybody in that town, last name is Cannon.
Really?
Textile, you know, going all the way back to the cotton fields.
Wow.
And it's such a strong and vibrant Black woman. Probably the strongest person, like my superhero.
Strong Black woman.
Who then gave, you know, birth to my grandfather, who married my grandmother.
Strong black
such
woman,
a powerful
because
woman.
she gave
Who
birth.
then gave birth to my father, who then, you know, teenagers, my mother and my father met each other and had me. And
Gave birth to my mother, strong black woman, then gave birth to my father, and now let's just move on. I don't really have like any compliments for the father. You know, all the women in my family are strong, and my father was born.
in that, those are my examples of relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I watch, like I said, my great grandmother be a matriarch. I watched my grandmother be a matriarch who helped raise me and the teenagers who had me. And then my mother being, you know, a young mother, so resilient, brilliantly trying to figure it out, from putting herself through night school to several jobs at a time, being a teenager with a young baby, and then, you know, her various personal relationships, because my parents never really were in a relationship. My father went back to North Carolina to, you know, get his education, stay out of trouble, started his new family, while I kind of bounced around amongst the three. So even in that, when time for me to get into my relationships and my love life, I saw various things. So I was willing and ready to I'm open for whoever loves me.
Okay.
You know, and I never really understood the importance that I do now, because I'm somebody who's had many relationships, but there is a strength in the Black relationship.
Yes.
But now, because I have been through various relationships, I get a lot of.
I don't know what he thinks the strength of Black relationships are. Because quite frankly, it doesn't seem like the women in your family had any. Like, so where did that even come from? Like, I get the people who come from like these good times, these Jefferson, these you know, Cosby Show type families, and they say that, yeah, there is a there, but there never was a there for you.
Flack and ridicule for being a successful Black man who's currently not in a monogamous relationship with a Black woman, and what that example is for not only my own children, but even, you know, people who look up to me, or they're trying to lead by example. Because, you know, even as a lot, I get quite often, I see it in the comments of like, you can't be pro-Black in the streets and white in the sheets, or other things that they say in the settings of like, you know, how can you be so for the culture, you know, as a Black man, but we don't see you, you know, marrying a Black woman currently. You know, and I come up with my various excuses, you know, where I say, you know, I was married to Mariah Carey, that is a Black woman, or even, you know, one of my baby mamas is dark skinned, or all of these things that I say.
Why? Why do you feel you need to respond?
That's my question. I mean, in trying to dig deep into my psychosis.
And there you have it. You actually don't need to respond. It doesn't make sense. I mean, they are shaming you for what reason? Why do you care about their shame? But it seems as if he's trying to use this panel to speak to them through Iyanla.
You know, am I? You know, is there, as someone who's, you know, attempting to lead by example, someone who's attempting to, you know, even as you put it, I understand the power and the importance of a Black woman, and even the definition of what that is. But as, you know, as someone who,
Okay, we got to understand that he is the entertainer, and part of being an entertainer is you don't necessarily have to be loved by all, but the more you are loved by, the further your career will go. So you can't really afford to be hated by a group of women. You can't afford to be hated by a group of people, period. that makes it more difficult for you to advance in your career. So this is him kissing the ring. That's why, every 3 seconds he's strong black woman and powerful matriarch. And, he's given like all of these ridiculous compliments to the plurality of black women. He's kissing the ring hard, like he's doing it for every kid he has. That's how many times he has to kiss the ring per minute. For every mixed kid that he has, that's how many times he has to kiss the ring per minute. What he doesn't realize is that kissing the ring to this particular group of people don't really mean anything. Once they realize that they can collectively cancel you, they just do. Just because they can.
Who is prominent in a figure in the culture that people do
If you were
value.
poor, would it be okay? Or would they care?
They wouldn't care.
Okay.
But I'm not. If I consider myself a king, they want to see who the queen is.
Yeah.
If I'm the pastor, they looking at the first lady.
I get that. Why? Did you volunteer for that, or were you voted into that place?
Yeah, no. I mean, but again, we have responsibility, and I want to get into this, in a later session too. But as public figures, specifically public figures with responsibilities, you know what I mean? If I was just your typical rapper or comedian or entertainer, that I even use terms like I ain't no role model, I'm a real model. I get but I do value, my voice and do want it to be a voice for change and inspiration. So, I got to check myself in every component. And, I think it's about equanimity. It's about things where if I'm pouring into the community, into the culture in one aspect, I'm not perfect, but I also do understand like some of these things are up for conversation. And I'm willing to be accountable. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. So I even, put all of that out there to say.
Okay, she's looking at him like, why is he apologizing to me when she never looked at him as if he's wronged her? Like, he's apologizing to her, and really he's just apologizing through her to black women. But he never wronged black women. So that's where the confusion comes in. He's never really wronged them. And we as black men, and this goes back into what they were saying about therapy, we as black men feel like if we don't do them the ultimate right, then we've wronged them. Especially black men like him who seem to have been raised by single mothers.
So even in a session and in dealing with my mental health, those are things that go through my mind. And everything from the ideas of, what is the definition of a strong relationship? What is the definition of, being a good father? What is the definition of, being someone who's prominent in the culture and being, so-called responsible? Those are the things that go through my mind at night.
I mean, you've got so much in there. I don't even know.
That's why we here, Doc.
Well, first of all, let me just say, I think you told me you're an Xer or Zer or.
Yeah, I'm a Gen X.
You were born
I'm
in
before
80.
the millennials.
Okay.
I was born in the 80s.
Okay. And you're also living in the Aquarian age, which is about oneness.
Yes.
And a lot, they sued him and took his money and everything, but Robin Thicke sang Blurred Lines. The lines are becoming more and more blurred.
They are.
In terms of what these systems and structures and lines and boxes that we were in. We went from LBGT to LBGTQ to LIA. I mean, the lines are becoming more and more blurred. Right. And in terms of interracial, intercultural partnerships, relationships, marriages, it's a sign of the times. It's what is going on now. I mean, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I've got bras that I bought in 1980, the same year you were born.
Yeah, I didn't want to know that. Apparently she had bras that she still has today. That's Nick Cannon's age, which, wow. TMI. I'm just going to leave it with that. But yeah, she's genuinely concerned because it doesn't make sense. And this is really to all black men. Black people, really. Like with all of these fluidities in sexual relationships, why are we still holding on to this, queen, queen, oh my queen, or I gotta have this king, and like, why are we still doing that? Everybody else is getting something other than what they quote unquote are supposed to be getting. But why are we trying to stick with something that's within the norm?
So, but two women together in my time,
Right.
okay, stone them.
Right.
Men in heels,
Right.
stone them.
Right.
Okay, so part of it for you to consider is that a lot of those lines are blurred, and you as a Black man dating a woman of another race or culture are demonstrating that you can love who you love and still take care of your people. Why isn't that a consideration?
Right.
That you can be who you are personally, and you do the strength. Maybe that's not your sole contract to marry a Black woman, but to take care of the Black community and to do it in a way where you are out in the.
You're really not even obligated to do that. But if you want to, then, that's an altruistic thing for you to do. But you're really not obligated to do that anymore. And what she's saying makes sense. Like, how are we tolerating things that we didn't tolerate in the past as it comes to, men in heels, men in dresses, men in makeup? We're tolerating all of this stuff. But we don't tolerate a person getting with another person of a different color?
The world, and people see you, and you handle yourself, and you speak your truth, and you state your intention, and you love Becky. I don't know how to say it.
No,
it's
that's
okay.
Real. That's
I mean,
real.
Because
and that's been happening since the 60s.
Well, but for a long time, I don't know if I'll say this, I'll probably get in trouble. I might have to have you help me later because I'm saying things and they'll be all over the place. For a long time, you talk about Mariah's Black. For a long time, she was too light. They didn't like her.
Yeah.
She don't look like. You know what? Humans are crazy as hell. Do you know that? We are crazy as hell, just like me. I never know what's going to set me off.
Right.
So we have to, and I want to encourage us, invite us in this day and age to stop, to really reconsider the kind of chains that we place on each other. We don't call it enslavement. Now, your opinion of me is a chain around my neck. Where's the free will?
Okay, I had my criticism of Vanzant in the past, but she is killing it now. She is killing it now. They are weaponizing these opinions and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as chains. What chains do Black men have on Black women? But we allow them to put all the chains of shame on us. They do all the shaming. Like, how dare you get with this white woman? And our response is to not be shamed by it, but state simply, until you suck my penis better than her, I owe you nothing. It is now incumbent upon you to outsuck her, to out-sandwich her, to out-clean her.
Where's the choice?
Right.
Judgment. There are a lot of men of color out there with means who ain't doing nothing. Spend their money on the pole.
Right.
Now she's shaming.
Okay, and they sleep with Black women.
Right.
And they ain't doing nothing for the hundreds of thousands of young Black boys that can't read. Or the children, the hundreds of thousands of Black children with food insecurity right here in America. And they sleeping with everything Black and that they want to, and they ain't doing nothing. So let's have a big conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's for us to question.
I think that it is nice if you help somebody like that. A young person that can't read, especially if they're suffering, if they have special needs. But, and I don't know how many children are illiterate or just simply reading below grade level, which is definitely a problem as well. But I will say that it's a cultural concern if it's happening in large numbers, and it is amongst Black people. And that's something that's in the house. And if they're not getting what they need in the house, especially in a country like America, where, you know, we provide the people who need it with what they need, meaning food, shelter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you're not doing your part, then that's something that should be addressed collectively as a culture, not individually trying to teach each individual boy to read, because what's going on is that's another thing that you are given for free. And you are contributing to this freeloader mentality that already exists amongst a particular cohort of women. You know, they get the free education, they get the free housing, they get the free phones, they get the free food, you know, they get the free school clothes. And once again, they get the free education for their kids. And if their kids are slacking, somebody helps bring the kid up for free. And then after they get all this free stuff, they say, I don't need a man, even though it's a man that's giving you the stuff that you... Anyway, let's continue.
It's not anymore.
Right.
That's Piscean era stuff.
Yeah.
That's now with the lines are blurred.
Well, I think there's just some people that came before us that gave us the ability. I mean, like I came from under the schooling, and, you know, may you rest in peace, but I got a chance to have many conversations with, you know, Harry Belafonte.
Me too.
You know,
that was my ex-husband's mentor.
Yeah.
Harry Belafonte.
Yeah.
I grew up with people like G2 Iusi, who most people don't even know who that is.
Right.
Okay. I was a 60s revolutionary baby, Black Panther, free lunch program.
Right.
All of that. And bread costs more today than it did back then. How come that can change and I can't?
I heard that. But that's what I was saying. Like, everybody from, you know, Mr. B to Sidney Poitier to so many individuals that did so much for our culture that I don't even get, you know, discussed now. When you know, we talk about...
But that's our job. We have to discuss them.
Right.
Can I tell you a funny joke?
Yes.
Okay. So when was it? A couple of years ago when they had the anniversary of Roots. Now I grew up, you know, I saw it live.
Right.
You know, Roots. But so I, being the cultural grandmother that I am, gather all my grandchildren, the teens, the tweens, and everything. Pop some popcorn. We're going to watch Roots. Okay?
Right.
And I'm going to explain every little part,
Right.
you know, with Kunta and everything. Well, one of my grandsons, oh God, he says to me, why are they on that boat? I said, what do you mean, why are they on the boat? He said, why are they on that boat?
Right.
I said, well, they're being captured from Africa and they're being enslaved. He said, well, why aren't they in the plane? I said, don't tell nobody your last name is Vanzant.
Why in the world is her grandson's last name Vanzant? Because I'm thinking that that's her maiden name. I don't know. Well, maybe that's her married name, and I'm hoping that it happened under healthy means. Like, that's her married name, and her son inherited that married name, and he had kids. I don't think that that's what happened, but I'm going to go with hope.
But it also speaks to the conversations that we need to have with our young people.
Sure.
I disagree with that. I rarely call children idiots. I just think that her grandson was young.
You know, I mean, I save every movie. I've got Coolie High, I've got Roots, I've got all of these things on
Culture.
DVD because I want them to see that.
Right.
I've Boys in the Hood, you know, all of it. Not the Friday movies. They say, well, whatever it is, I've got them, and I want them to see them. Anytime Jet magazine, my grandchildren I've
They don't
never
know.
seen an Ebony
They
magazine.
don't know what a Jet Beauty of the Week
Right?
looks like.
And how long a Jet, I got something from 78, because Jet just recycled itself.
Yeah.
But I want them to see that part of the culture. But that's my job.
Right.
That's your job, that we can talk about it and support them in recognizing and understanding, how did we get to the cancel culture?
Right.
What are some of the issues that resulted in that?
Sadly, all the stuff that she's mentioning really happened before 1989. Like, all of this Black culture is in the past. It's older than your grandkids, which means that they don't have a positive culture to gravitate towards now. And that's because the family structure is completely broken up and chopped up. And, the culture has now become something that the people don't want to be a part of. It's just that people are trapped in. Like, nobody wants to be a part of this crap. Nobody, even Nick Cannon, obviously, in his love life reflects that. Nobody wants to be a part of this crap show.
And how are we going to stand in it and be different in it, particularly Black men?
Right.
I have friends who've been canceled because times have changed, things have changed, women have changed, requirements have changed, expectations have changed, and nobody told them in.
Yeah. That's why I created it. I've been canceled a few times.
I know.
And in that, it's like, man, I need a safe space to be able to say whatever I want to say. And with someone who can say, you might went too far on that, or let me explain this. Or even just,
this is not what you want to say. This is what you feel that you have to say in order to uncancel yourself. All of this queen, oh, my queen, my queen, my queen, my queen. All of that stuff is something that you feel like you have to say. Listen, when you make movies like Drumline, which took place at a HBCU with a Black cast, it's by Black people, for Black people, to Black people, then you cannot afford to have half of your Black audience cancel you. You can't. Like, stuff like that, you could be canceled by Black women when you were on Nickelodeon. You could afford to do that when you're doing Wild 'N Out, which, I'm assuming appeals to all demographics. But you still want to be able to make stuff that appeals to, that has a large appeal to a small demographic. And if you're canceled, you can't.
a safe space to be the man that I am. Because even in being the man that I am, he said, no one's told me the new rules.
Right.
No one's told me what I can or can't say until it's too late. And then they're like, oh, you wasn't supposed to say that.
And particularly for Black men, again, I will say it, devalued, dehumanized, diminished, demeaned, dismissed, disheartened. Why do we go for punishment as opposed to correction? Where is the correction unfolding? Where's that happening?
The true
and
repentance.
Who's doing it? Huh?
I said the true repentance.
Right. Because it's one
atonement.
Atonement, which is what Minister Louis Farrakhan said at the Million Man March. What is that now? 55 years ago?
Yeah.
He said you must
have more like 25 years ago. Dang.
Oh.
But no, that definitely. And I've had many times to sit with the minister, and that really is his message.
Yes.
The accountability, the atonement of the Black man, and to understand who we are in an unapologetic manner. And that's why even us sitting here talking about, therapy, and even me personally, the things that, keep me up at night are the responsibilities of a man, and what I'm allowed to do and what I'm no longer allowed to do.
Well, allowed, is that the... I
mean,
don't think it's allowed.
In this society,
but see,
allowed.
We've given people's opinions too much power.
But even when people's opinions can now
destroy your career,
not just destroy your career, but destroy your household.
Right.
Where now, because of people's opinions, when you walk down the street or when you walk in the door, people are looking at you different.
How did that happen?
Because you went viral, or not even just a specific, because I'm not even discussing a public figure. I'm just talking about the things that we can no longer say, the things that we can no longer do, because now it's considered toxic masculinity, or now it's considered non-gentle parenting. Now it's considered, I can't even in public raise my voice towards my child, or I can't even disagree in public, because when now my entire career is taken from me, because however the angle on the camera was, it looked like I was being a little too aggressive.
New form of slavery.
Because the black man specifically is society fears them.
That's right.
So anytime we're not operating with the status quo.
Well, once again, he is a celebrity. And as I stated in the chat room, he is a celebrity. So his success is directly connected to that. So he does have a greater fear of that than most. He shouldn't be projecting that onto the plurality of black men who don't stand to lose millions, if public perception of them change. Like what happened to Jonathan Majors would not have been as big a deal if he worked at Target. Like the worst case scenario is that he would lose his job at Target, because these are misdemeanor claims. So the worst thing that would have happened is he lose his job at Target and he'd have to work at Walmart. That's pretty much it. No, it's a far greater concern. Other people's opinion is a far greater concern for you than others. I don't cam up because I do have that concern. And which means that I am not, the GameChanger logo is in the entertainment business through YouTube, but I, real name, am not in the entertainment business. So if somebody see me on the street, they won't, if one of you see me on the street, you wouldn't recognize me, you won't ask my autograph or anything like that, because I am not an entertainer. For that reason, there are consequences to that. Great reward, great responsibility type deal. And yeah. But once again, you are using this platform to air out your concerns about being canceled under the guise of this is a black man issue. No, this is a rich celebrity black man issue.
We got to do away with it.
I have a friend who talks about it in terms of the bee and the butterfly. When people see a butterfly, oh, look at the butterfly, and when they see a bee, they immediately start swatting
at it.
And the black man is the bee in the society. Whether you're talking President Obama or, Hootie and Tootie on the corner,
right,
who's just standing there talking because they were off today.
Right.
But immediately it's assumed that they're on the corner up to no good.
Right.
Society does see the black man, men of color. Now y'all will be bypassed by the brown men really soon, because they're poisoning the blood of America and bringing in drugs and craziness.
That's what they say, right?
Okay, so it's gonna be them in a minute, so y'all will be off the hook. But again,
I didn't get that one, poisoning the blood of America thing. Okay. They didn't invent drugs. We're talking about Mexicans here. They didn't invent drugs. And nor do they have the monopoly on its distribution here in the States. I don't know. And then when she says about to be replaced, what does that mean? Like, wouldn't you want to be replaced in poison in the blood of America? Like, if all these things are bad, then wouldn't you want to have another group replace your negative stereotype? Kind of like how the blacks replace the Italian negative stereotypes of criminality. Like, you don't really hear about Italian mobs, and they don't walk around with that stigma anymore. They just are known for whatever it is they're known for now. But truth of the matter is, we kind of cling to that stereotype because at least we're noticed.
How many children you have will go viral?
Mm.
I've been teaching people how to balance their mind and their heart for 35 years. I ain't never went viral.
Mm.
It's a level of
Oh, and by the way, Black women, and probably not Ayala, but a large percentage of Black women live by that stereotype, that gangsta image. They need it. They need the whole fear of Pookie Ray Ray, a volatile and violent Black man out there, so they could get away with their antics. Because as long as that image exists in the psyche of America, then they could go out and behave in a way that's just completely irrational. And if somebody say something, she could just say, talk to Pookie. She could tell a white person, an Asian person, oh, I'm going to go get Pookie on you. And that person, if he believes the stereotype, might even believe that she has a Pookie. Like that's, she has hitters, out there. She has hitters, she has gorillas, they just assume that, so they let her get away with more. They depend on that image and reputation. So they collectively don't want to see it end. Hit the like button.
of degradation. It's like we go for the base, the lowest common denominator that just feeds the deceptive intelligence of our mind to make us think that I'm going to jump on this bandwagon and tear you down, jump on that bandwagon. Like I said, 36 years I've been doing it. I ain't never went viral, ever, about nothing.
Right. We're going to change that today.
How about healing ancestral patterns that I've been teaching? And again, this is not about me going viral. This is about how this society, how the matrix of this society, with its predisposition to demean, diminish, devalue Black men, has really kind of, recruited everybody.
It's not the matrix of society. The matrix of society really did everything it can. And by that, I mean like the general power structure of society did everything it could to avoid that.
To get into this thing where swat and be.
I love that. I always called it the lion complex. If you saw a lion walking down the street, you're going to lock your doors, you're going to call the police.
No, first you're going to take a picture.
And then you're going to lock your door.
Then you're going to lock your door. But you will be there trying to take a picture because there's something intriguing.
But we were taught to fear the lion because the lion got so much inside of him. But then, and we said this earlier, but nobody's ever checking on the lion.
That's right.
No one ever asked how
Mr. Lion, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How you feel, Mr. Lion?
They're gonna tranquilize, they're gonna shoot because they fear the lion.
But my son, who's a Black man, said this to me one day. We have these really in-depth debates.
That analogy was piss poor. Do you walk up to lions and ask it how it feels? Like, that analogy was really, really, really bad. And later when they continue with that analogy, it's going to show something. It's really going to show a defect in the way Black men think when they continue down that analogy.
Debates, of course, because his mother is Iyanla Vansant. So we had this really in-depth debate. And he said to me, Ma, the lion, the king of the jungle, who, he just talked about all of the attributes and how people look at the lion. He said, what is it, Ma, that would make an animal that majestic, that grand, that sought after? What would make him cower in a cage to a human with a whip in the chair? What would make that majestic beast so diminish himself that a human with a whip in a chair could make it? I said, he lost the knowledge of himself.
That was a really bad question and a really bad answer. That was a really bad question for an adult. And her son is an adult. Her son, I believe, is older than I am. That is a very, very, very bad question. And it really shows Black men really have a lack of value for the very thing that has given humanity extraordinary advantage over all animals. And that is the ability to create and manipulate the world to our advantage, through tools and technology. That simple fact alone is what separates humans from all other animals. It's the difference between a human and all of the other members of the chimpanzee, or excuse me, the great ape family. It really is. We make tools, they don't. The reason why that lion cowers is because of the whip and the chair. Like the answer is in the question. Why would a lion in a cage that's created by men cower behind a man with a whip and a chair? The same reason why you would, sir. It's because he out technologied you. Lions are not capable of creating whips. He's not capable of creating chairs or cages or the very tranquilizer gun that was used to capture and snare the lion to begin with. They're not capable of such things. Why, when you see, like, of course, mano y mano or mano y fili, of course, we would lose. That's why we don't do things like that. That's why we created stuff like that. It's a nonsensical question because you aren't recognizing the value and power of technology, and you're at an age to where you long should have. I mean, somebody pulls a gun out on you and say, "Give me your wallet," and you say, "Why should I cower towards you? I'm bigger than you." It's like, do you not see the Glock in his hand? Like, are you that dense? And then the solution is not knowing or having a sense of self. The response to that is not, oh, well, it's because he lost his sense of self. His sense of self is in the cage with him. His sense of self is getting whipped with him. Once somebody have you in a cage and they're poking a chair at you and whipping you, your sense of self, how is that going to help you? I still have my sense of self. I am a lion. I am king of the jungle. You're not in the jungle. Anyway.
He forgot he was a lion.
How many black men walking around?
It don't matter if you know you're a lion or not. It doesn't matter to the lion tamer what you call yourself. I know I'm a lion, yeah, but you're going to lion your ass through that hoop, aren't you? I bet you're going to do that or you're going to get this whip. You're going to lion your way through that hoop right now.
Today, feeling inadequate, simply don't have the knowledge of themselves, and they're so busy trying to live up to the standards that the matrix has set for them without it ever having said how you doing, how you feel, what you need. And they're trying to conform to other people's expectations, definitions. No wonder.
That's powerful. Shall we pause there? I mean, this session in itself, I mean, we just began to unpack some powerful stuff. But Doc, I definitely feel, that this is gonna affect a lot of people. This is gonna help a lot of men and women. But just to be able to verbalize these things, I mean, and hear it in a simplistic form. But even for me, as we continue on in the next couple of sessions, I definitely want to talk about everything that I mean. I like that we laid the analogy of lions on the table, because I want to talk about fatherhood. I want to dig a little bit deeper into, suicide and when the lion no longer or feels that he has
A place
in the world.
Value.
Yeah,
A meaning.
when his roar is no longer heard.
And when his roar, no one's afraid of his roar.
Yeah. And then finally, I think there's a lot that, for me, where I need help, and probably a few of my counterparts and peers in the space of entertainment, our responsibility. Everybody got a microphone in front of them now. There's a camera following us all around. I think we definitely got to discuss, the accountability of our Black entertainers specifically. And, I coined the phrase, Black men do better. And, you can take that how in many different ways, but it really starts with the accountability and understanding, like you said.
Here we go. See, here's what Nick Cannon. Black women are these these matriarchs, and they're strong. They're, he's constantly kissing the ring of Black women. But Black men need to do better. What in the world do we need to do better? Like, stop and think about that for a second. What do we need to do better in? Well, here's what I mean by that. I mean, everybody has areas of improvement. Black men in general does. But the thing is that even if we were to do better in these areas, the results to the community, to the collective, to the family structure isn't going to improve. If we were to, just tip the scales at Harvard, then we'll just be lames. If we were to, I don't know, out Pookie, everybody else, then we would just be Pookie. No matter what you do, they'll find fault in it and still say you are inadequate. And any improvement that you make, they'll say it's because we have been calling you inadequate for so many generations. And now they're just going to double down on it.
Who we are as kings, who we are as lions, who we are as in the society.
But also who you are as wounded little boys who didn't get what they needed from the people who were responsible to give it to them.
We're going to unpack all of that in the next session. We're going to pause here. Please like, follow, subscribe, comment section. Go crazy. Do what you do. I mean, this is just the beginning. This is just the appetizer. We're about to dig in deeper on the next session.
All right. A lion is a dumb animal. I don't know why Black men, and it's yellow, not black. I don't know why Black men insist on comparing themselves to lions, or any feline for that matter, really. Like, at least the BGF uses a primate, and gorillas are significantly smarter than lions. I don't get it. Maybe it's because it's an African cat. I don't know. It's like, oh, I'm a lion. Like it's really, lions aren't really, they're beautiful creatures like many creatures, but they're not really so, there's nothing better than being a human. I don't get this whole lion worship, but maybe I'm different. All right, let's read some of the comments. Love Iyanla, she's the best. Yeah, okay. They stand to lose livelihood. They might not be able to get another job at Walmart. No, I mean, because it wouldn't make the headlines, and it's a misdemeanor. So, Walmart wouldn't even know about it. Looking at his relationships, I don't see any Black women, just regular Black. What do you mean? As far as regular black goes, because like Mariah Carey is isn't she like part? I don't know. Let's see. Kevin 2010. I think all the guys are still locked up. Are you talking to somebody in the chat room? I don't get that. But yeah, there is this thinking that black women like to use that, like 100% of black men are in jail. Okay. Here's what black women are doing. In their attempt to leverage relationships, they are single for a significantly longer period of time than their other counterparts by choice. What they're doing is they are creating a market of desperation. They're like, listen, if we wait to our 40s until our instead of our 20s, then the men who have been waiting to secure a relationship since his 20s will be significantly more desperate than other men than they were in their 20s, and we can leverage a better relationship at that stage in life. That's their mating strategy. However, when the world looks at this mating strategy and looks at it as quite foolish, then what comes into question is, well, okay, in order to protect their mating strategy, they have to explain why they're single for so long. And amongst their explanation is they're all in jail. I mean, there's others, but that's the gist of it. Like, they're all in jail is something that they hid behind for decades now. But the truth of the matter is that the excuse doesn't fly. So it's kind of like seeing a group of people who are standing outside of a concert or something, and they say, hey, how come you're not in the concert? Now, the truth of the matter is you're just waiting for tickets prices to go down. But you say that there aren't any seats available. But now people have taken cameras inside and say, wait a minute, there's a seat right here. There's a seat right here. There's a seat right here. Which brings the question again, why are you standing outside? So yeah, it's deception. A few more of these. It's because in Alabama. Okay. Don't know what that is, so I'll move on. Okay, y'all talking to each other. By the way, the culture is of the people category. Okay. You must understand the of the people and for the people equation. No, I get it. I'm saying that Nick Cannon, who's a person that should be for the people, is pretending to be of the people because his wealth set himself aside from the people. I mean, unless the people are extremely wealthy entertainers like himself, then he is a person that can only be for the people. I don't know to what extent he is for the people, to be perfectly honest, but, he's most certainly not of the people. I know being of the people is advantageous to many entertainers. All right, Brad, no good for you anyway. Both Sydney and her were proud SYSBM guys. That's why they lived so long. Yeah, I don't really know if they were. I do know that the men of their time did voice their concerns about the behaviors of Black women, including James Earl Jones, who's also an extraordinarily lived person, especially for a man, which, quite frankly, such a poor physique. But they all expressed their concerns about the behavior of Black women and that it was just downright repulsive. And we're talking about guys who were very wealthy at a time where there weren't many very wealthy Black guys. So even they had these concerns on all socioeconomic levels. So this isn't a new thing. You know, some of them got with a Ennis Cosby. Salute to her. And others said, you know, something, it's not worth trying to shuffle through to find such a woman. So they didn't. And yeah, many of them did voice their concerns. Unfortunately, it didn't get mass media appeal. All right, let's see. I say they were proud by SYM because they both explained why they dated out with pride. I got to find the videos. Yeah, find the videos. I do know that Eartha Kitt did accuse Sidney Poitier of that, and that's why she got with Norm Macdonald, who was the most regular basic Brad that exists. But you know, she got with him, and they divorced after 5 years, and then you didn't see her for decades until she just appeared out of nowhere on Boomerang. So yeah, let's not pretend like relationship problems didn't exist and that both sides didn't have their complaints and concerns back then. Somebody said Eartha lied. I agree. I mean, I don't think that that Sidney Poitier kicked her out of the bed and gave like a little sermon when he did. That sounds suspect. So James Earl Jones, I don't know if he was simping for black women, but he probably did have to kiss the ring after that. Okay. All right. So if that's it, I'm going to close down because it looks like y'all talking to each other. So, which is a good thing. Let's see. Okay. All right. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating and those who are listening silently. Once again, this is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.